chances are, at some point in your life, you will encounter a health scare. You will either be lying down in pain and suffering, looking up from a stretcher, or your stomach will be dropping as you watch someone you love endure pain and suffering. In moments like this, time stands still. Fear and helplessness wash over your body. Universal human emotions that unite all of us. During moments of fear, pain, or lack of knowledge, it is impossible to make an informed decision. So what's the cost? First the incident, and then the bill. And before you know it, you're paying something much higher than you thought that could, quite frankly, cause financial devastation. The fact is, 70% of Americans cannot confidently say they understand the cost of healthcare services. That is 210 million people. That's staggering. I have had the privilege of leading in healthcare for the past 18 years. I've had to become more vigilant than I ever thought I would have to be as a consumer of healthcare. At its core, healthcare consumerism is the idea that people should be empowered to make informed choices, treating healthcare like any other consumer purchase we make, where we both seek and expect the best value for our money. All stories tie back to a singular thread, though, of not planning ahead or asking questions to determine value. Today, I will empower you with the basic concept of planning ahead and 3 simple questions that you can ask starting tomorrow that will genuinely change the way that you approach healthcare. How many of you remember your first car? That's what I thought. Mine was a 1982 Subaru GL named Sammy that had a hole in the trunk. My freshman year of college, Sammy died for good. And while I was very upset, I was absolutely ready for an upgrade to my dream car, a Volkswagen Beetle. One day I was driving down the road and I spotted a white Volkswagen Beetle in a used car dealership. I immediately pulled over. I ran into the car dealership, found that salesperson and said, "I'm taking this baby for a ride." The second I opened that door, those black leather seats, all I could think about was blasting the Spice Girls, jamming out to Wannabe, and putting a flower in the vase next to the steering wheel. And then I looked down and I saw that it was a stick shift, which I had never driven before in my life, but I didn't care. And as we lurched out of the car dealership, trying to get the clutch to engage, I knew that I wanted that car. By the time we got back to the car dealership, someone else knew I wanted it too. The salesperson. He coincidentally told me that 2 other people would be back within the hour to take Betsy for a test drive. Yes, I had already named her. Fear, panic, pressure set in. It was not the time to be making an uninformed decision, but what did I do? I applied for a loan I couldn't afford, I got approved, and I drove that car off the lot that day. A few hours later, I called my father, and he asked me how much I paid for it, and then proceeded to tell me that I got ripped off. How many of you would unknowingly flush thousands of dollars down the toilet like I did with Betsy? Nobody would. The harsh reality is the majority of you are on healthcare, and you have no idea. I recognize that certain situations in healthcare are absolutely emergent and completely unavoidable. Yet 43% of healthcare costs are shoppable, allowing you time for planning and saving you from costly mistakes. How do we fix this? My belief is that you have the power to fix this. And it starts with asking 3 simple questions. The first, who are the healthcare providers in my community that perform this clinical service? Not just one, a list of them. Can't rely on just one referral. The second question, this is novel. Get ready. How much will it cost? And the third is, what is the current procedural terminology? CPT code, for short. I see a lot of blank stares on that one. But I promise you, by the time we're done, you will recognize that this is your healthcare superpower and unlocks the mystery of healthcare pricing. In 2019, a good friend of mine had been suffering from knee pain for years. She couldn't even walk down the street without limping. It was devastating to watch. She needed a knee replacement. So what did she do? She went to her primary care physician, who referred her to an orthopedic surgeon. The orthopedic surgeon agreed that she needed a knee replacement, and it was scheduled for a month later. She had a successful outcome. She was on her way to recovery. And then a few weeks later, the bill came to the tune of a whopping $42,000, with thousands of dollars that she owed herself. What was wrong with that story? Well, the first thing is she went to the one orthopedic surgeon that her primary care referred her to. This cannot happen anymore if you're going to be an empowered healthcare consumer. You must ask your doctor's office for a list of providers, go to your best friend Google, or your health insurer's website. The second, she never asked how much it cost. She didn't even know until the bill came in the mail. Has that happened to anyone before? But she didn't want it to happen again. Fast forward to today. In 3 weeks, Deb will get her second knee replaced. But this time the story is quite different. This time she shopped with 6 different surgeons and had a conversation about cost and quality. This time, the bill will be $18,000 versus $42,000. A $24,000 difference for the same exact surgery in the same community with likely the same successful outcome. The reality is in every single one of our communities across the US, there are different prices for the exact same healthcare services. Now, I know what you're thinking. High quality equals high cost. I mean, we look at Mercedes, BMW, Apple. But the reality is, with healthcare, we need to rewire our brains from thinking that high quality equals high cost as it relates to shoppable healthcare services, because that's just not the truth. What is found is that oftentimes, when people take control of the process and shop around, that they have better outcomes because they have proactively made an informed decision. The third question is my favorite. What is the CPT code? All right, so for all of my Target shoppers out there, what do? You walk into Target with a short list. Short. And then all of a sudden, by the time you get to checkout, you get a full cart. I'm just saying, you have a full cart of stuff, and what do? You take something out of the cart and you scan it. And when you scan it, what pops up on the screen? You scan the barcode, there's the price. The CPT code is the healthcare version of the barcode that you scan at your favorite store or Target. It's your best friend when it comes to unlocking the mystery of healthcare pricing. A few months back, I had a personal health scare. I had a mass on my left breast that I needed to get a diagnostic mammogram. When I found that out, I was absolutely terrified, like thinking the worst right away, like most women do when we hear something like that. But in that moment, I walked out of the room, I went to the front desk, and the woman asked me if she could schedule my mammogram. But instead, I asked her for a list of imaging clinics and the CPT code with the order. I'll never forget walking out of the office down in my car that day. I sat in my car crying, and I started dialing those 5 imaging clinics. And what I found in that 30 minutes that I took to take a moment, even though I was terrified, was a difference in price between $300 and $1,100 for the same healthcare service. Guess which one I chose? the $300 option. If we think about the things in life that we really care about, think about vacations. How much time we spend planning vacation? Road trip, airplane, sun, snow, children's birthday parties, holidays, what people are going to wear for their family pictures. A lot of time and effort goes into thinking about the things that we care about. Doesn't it make sense to start approaching your healthcare decisions with the same rigor and enthusiasm that you do for all other things in your life? A good friend of mine told me once that he sits every morning and writes in his prayer journal that he is healthy enough that he can sit on the ground and play with his granddaughter, Abby. A good friend of mine almost passed away 2 years ago. And I know that many people in the audience have had these same exact stories. They're emotional and they're hard. Without our health, what do we have? My son Jack played soccer when he was little. One day, September 29th, 2018, it was a beautiful day in South Carolina. I had his baby brother on my hip, and I was cheering like a wild woman as my son went down the field, getting ready to score a goal. When all of a sudden, in an instant, everything changed. From the wing, a little boy from the opposing team kicked that ball with such force right at Jack's wrist that I heard it break. I watched my son crumple to the ground and let out the most heart-wrenching scream that I had ever heard. And what did I do? I broke every single soccer parent rule out there, and I ran onto the field, even though my husband was telling me not to. I didn't care. My baby was hurt. But in that moment of being terrified, I had a plan. We picked Jack up. We knew we needed to go and get an x-ray. We brought him to the location that I already knew had an x-ray that was affordable, with a doctor that I knew and had planned for, even though I had never wanted these things to happen to my children. That day, he fractured his wrist. What did they do? They put it in a splint. They gave him a shoulder sling, sent him on his way with a popsicle, and us with an ortho consult for Monday, with a doctor we'd already chosen. This story is more about kids and soccer and their crazy soccer moms. This is about how if you plan ahead for your health care, you will save thousands of dollars, because that day we saved over $1,000 because we knew where we were going to go, even though we never wanted this to happen. I want you to leave here, and I want you to go home, and I want you to write a list of all the healthcare services that you will need for the upcoming year. So, preventative care, primary care physician. If you're 45, I hate to tell you, you are on the docket for a colonoscopy this year, but I promise you, it will be the best cleanse that you'll ever get in your life. And then the things that none of us want to have happen. What are those emergency situations? Who are those doctors that you might have to see? Well, we have 3 boys between my husband and I. We've had 6 sets of ear tubes and 2 tonsillectomies, so we have an ENT on speed dial. These days, I like to call myself a pickleballer. Anyone else? Well, let me tell you, if you play pickleball and you don't have an orthopedic surgeon on speed dial, get one. Fun fact, UBS actually had published an article that over $500 million will be spent on pickleball-related injuries in the US in 2023 alone. Plan ahead, orthopedic surgeon. Healthcare consumerism is not just a buzzword. It is a necessary mindset for today's world. It allows for you to be empowered, to be informed, to save thousands of dollars. With good health, we can breathe in, we can breathe out. We can live a life of purpose, passion. Without it, just simply we can't. Well, I recognize that our healthcare system is wildly complex and completely overwhelming to many. What I do know is that it is you that has the power to make the decision of where you get your healthcare. And it is you that decides how much you pay for it. The sad news is that 210 million people don't know where to start. But the good news is now you do.